Hi there and welcome back to my channel. This is Sean, the Honest Book Reviewer, with another book review. In this video we're discussing Survive the Night, written by Riley Sager. Here's the book. It's a thriller. It's my continued journey through Riley Sager's catalogue. This is a mixed bag for me. The first 2/3 of this book are wonderful. I was so into the first 2/3 of this book. The tension, the suspense, the intrigue. It just was chilling as well and gripping. But then it changes and it goes bonkers, it goes off the rails, and not in a good way. Some books work a bit when they go a bit off the rails. This book doesn't, because it just changes so dramatically. But it's not the changes so much that make it just not enjoyable in that last third. It's what happens to those characters, what they do, how the plot's structured and written. I don't know what went through the author's mind in that last third. I don't know why the publisher accepted it, but for me, it downgraded the rating totally. So a mixed bag for me in this book. The first 2/3 were so wonderful, almost brilliant, and then that last third lets it down so much. So Charlie is our main character, and she's a college student, and she's studying film at college. And she wants to go back home. She's leaving college, not sure for good or just for a short time, but she's leaving because her roommate at the college was killed, and they think was killed by a serial killer, and the serial killer is still out there somewhere, and apparently the same person has killed 2 other people as well in this story. So Charlie wants to leave college because she can't stand the memories, and she feels a bit guilty about what happened to her roommate as well. She wants to leave ASAP. She has got a boyfriend, but doesn't want to wait for her boyfriend to be free to drive her back home, so she's getting a ride with a stranger. Now, that's the first warning sign. If there was a serial killer in the area, would you accept a ride with a stranger you've never met before? I wouldn't, but this character Charlie does. The stranger's name is Josh, and Charlie bases the fact that he seems okay on superficial things. The way he talks, the way he looks, the way he appears, and the car he drives. So because of all those things are okay in her eyes, then Josh can't be this mysterious serial killer that's still around in the area. He just can't be. I still wouldn't accept a ride with a stranger, even one that comes across as charming and all those sorts of things that Charlie thinks this guy Josh is. You wouldn't accept a ride with a stranger if there's a killer on the loose somewhere. You just wouldn't do it. So this should be a PSA for people out there. So anyway, this is where the book really dragged me into the story, as the scenes in the car with Charlie and Josh. It dragged me in for a few reasons. Firstly, just the way they interact, not just with dialogue, but also their body language and Charlie's thoughts as well in the car. It just hooked me into both those characters. Then we have Charlie has a particular problem. She sometimes zones out and hallucinates in a way. And she sees full-on, she calls them movies in her mind, and they're very immersive. She's right there in those movies, and she feels everything that goes on in them. And when she snaps back into reality, she thinks those movies were real. And during this car ride, there are moments where she can't choose between what's real and what's not. She's not sure, and she's relying on this stranger Josh to tell her what's real and not. And that's where a lot of the tension and intrigue comes into it. We don't know, is Josh telling her the truth? We don't know, is Charlie remembering the wrong thing as being real? We're not sure what's real in some moments in this car, and that comes down to the character Charlie and this particular problem she has. That was written very well in this story and hooked me into it, because I was wondering as a reader what's real and what's not. Even though it's a bit of a trope, having the protagonist be somebody we can't rely on. That's a bit of a trope in certain thrillers. But it was done so well in this book, because the trope was brought about in a unique way in my view, in a way I've not seen before. So as these scenes progress, as we have them in the car, then they stop for gas and certain things, Charlie starts to wonder, is Josh really Josh? Is Josh still normal? Is he innocent? Could he be the killer? And that went through my mind from the first moment we had Josh in this story. Before the car ride, I thought, is Josh going to be the serial killer? Now, what is this person Charlie going into the car for with this killer? That was on my mind straight away. So when I was reading this in all those scenes, I was looking for clues, little tidbits in that book to say, is Josh the killer or not? And all through this car ride, I wasn't sure. There are some moments where you think he definitely is, and there are some moments where you think, no, he can't be. And at some part in this book, they veer off the highway and they go to a diner. They go there for food, and also Charlie wants to call her boyfriend, let her know about the car ride. When she calls her boyfriend, she gives him a code phrase, and they decided on a code phrase to give in case she felt in danger. So she gives him this code phrase, and that just shapes up the rest of the story. Now, I'm not going to go further into the plot at all, because what happens next after that phone call, there are twists and turns throughout the story. Those twists and turns are well timed, they're well used. I don't know if I like the consequences of those twists and turns. In fact, I don't like them really much at all, because this is where the book also starts to get a bit bonkers and off the rails. So right up to the moment where they veer off and go to this diner and that phone call, the book was so good. I was so into the book. Everything felt so real and so true. It was a wonderful story. After that phone call is the big shift in the story. The conclusion of this book. Now, I didn't enjoy this conclusion at all, especially after the fact that we start to get into bonkers territory and things go off the rails. The conclusion doesn't bring it back into any sense of normality. The ending of the book has that same feel. Ending of the book doesn't feel real. There are other things going on after the big final moment also that don't feel real, and are just big warning signs for me about what these characters think is normal. And I'm not sure why the author wrote the last third of the book like this, and especially the conclusion, because I won't go into detail about why I think the conclusion is bad in heavy detail, but the author just chose things for the characters in this plot that just made me wonder about what the author was thinking doing that. I mean, what made the author think that it would be real, it would feel real? And then to have this go through editing and go through the whole publication process, did anybody question it and say, are you sure about this? Because I'm sure that if certain editors looked at this, they would think, look, you might want to change what's going on in this story, because it just goes into territory that just doesn't make sense at all. For Charlie, the main character, I engaged with Charlie very much in the first 2/3 of this story. When it switched and became a bit bonkers, I disengaged with the character a little bit, to do with the choices she makes. Anyway, the good things about the character: she's a character where you get right behind and you engage with, and she's a character where you think, oh, come on, don't do that, or why didn't you do that? You know, when you're watching a movie and you're thinking that on the screen, when characters aren't doing things you want them to do, or they do things you think are stupid, that's with this character as well in the book. So to immerse me into a book like that, and that same feel as like a thriller movie, that was so well done with this character. The character is a trope though, so we have the trope of being unreliable, but that was brought about in a unique way. So I enjoyed that, and it felt real in the story. The trope itself did not disengage me from the story at all. It's the plot, that last third of the book, the plot, that disengaged me from this character and the story overall. Josh is the other character I'll mention in this video. He's so well written because he's suspicious, and that's right from the very start. From the first moment he's in this book, I'm wondering, can he be trusted or not? Is he the killer or not? That goes through my mind right up to that 2/3 point in the book. I enjoyed the character so much. He's just got a great way with his dialogue. The way the author writes this character's dialogue, the way the author writes him in certain scenes, standing in certain parts of scenes where he blocks the view of certain things, you know, having him look through certain parts of his car when Charlie's not there, and what the character observes as well, what the character sees, how the character feels, and what Charlie sees through her eyes when she looks at Josh and sees Josh's facial expressions and his body language. All that plays out in this book with this character, and it's all done so well. So the strength of this character is not just the character himself, but how Charlie sees this character. And it's her view of Josh that fills in all the gaps of Josh that we don't get through his own mind. So I do enjoy this character a lot. It's such a shame that this book went a bit bonkers and off the rails, because we're up to that point. This book was wonderful. Everything about it was so gripping. It was chilling as well. It had me hooked right into the story. And those car scenes with Charlie and Josh were just done so well. to have this small space, a car, and have very lengthy scenes with two characters, and most of it's just dialogue, and just also Charlie glancing at Josh at certain times and her thoughts. But those scenes were so gripping and engaging and immersive. And when you read this book, I hope you feel the same way, because it was really well done in those scenes, and that atmosphere build up in those scenes was just almost tactile. It was just so thick, that atmosphere. I rate this a 3 out of 5. 3 stars for the whole book, 4 stars for the first 2/3, minus 1 star for the last third, because the last third is just too bonkers and off the rails for me. Some readers may enjoy that, and I don't mind sometimes when books do go off the rails a little bit, but this was just too extreme. On my channel, I review many thrillers. If you enjoy thrillers, check out my channel and subscribe. On the screen now is a link to another video for a book I'm sure you'll enjoy.